September, and I hope you enjoy what I'm going to show you. If you can hear, I must apologize for the noise. There's an awful amount of building work going on down there. So I'll just show you where I am. I'm at the bottom of what is called the Toys Kloof. It's going to be a lovely ride. I'm on my way up to the Cedarberg, which is a lovely natural area. It's my first solo trip overnight, and I must say it did take me a while to get organized and pack, but I need to get going, and I'll show you some footage on the way. Enjoy the ride. First up is the Toys Kloof, which comes up over these rather imposing and beautiful De Toys Kloof mountains, which form kind of a natural barrier between the coast and the inland. Used to be an animal track and was converted to a road in about the 1940s by the then provincial government, and pretty it is too. This is Gedo Pass, which links Ceres, a town called Ceres, to a plateau called the Kohe Bokkerveld. It's quite a nice winding road and is often used for hill climbs, and you can see by the corners why it's so popular. My journey started. This is what it was all about for me. Getting onto some nice isolated gravel roads and just relaxing, enjoying being out of town. Well, here we are in the Cedarberg, the south part. And I've learned a few things. I learned that I need extra luggage. It took me an hour and a half to pack this morning. And I've got three main items. I have my bike, I have overnight gear, some clothes. I'm just going to turn around so we can see a bit of scenery. There we are. So I have clothes, really a pair of jeans, a couple of shirts, brought a couple of fleeces in case it's cold. I've got some bike tools in case I get a puncture or something minor goes wrong, but that's certainly not going to cover me for a major thing. And camera equipment. And I find that it just doesn't work, because every time I stop and want to change the camera, change the battery or do something, it's packed away, all strapped down. Lesson learned. But it's beautiful to be here. It's really nice. I'm looking forward to the rest of the trip. I loved how I was straight away into these beautiful rock formations, which to me typify this area. Sculpted by wind and sand erosion. They almost seem otherworldly in places. And I love the fact that they encroach on the road here. Kind of added to the wild feeling about it. It's so different to where I live. I also liked how the scenery just changed. You know, there's endless valleys and ridges and open plains, and the road meanders between them. And I'm never sure what's going to be around the next bend, but I did enjoy the feeling I got of isolation and almost tranquility. You know, I forgot about pretty much anything except the trip that I was enjoying and really having fun on. I wish I'd had time to look into this little valley down here on the left. It looked so interesting and so intriguing, and I only found out afterwards I had time to do it, but it would have been really nice to take a look down there. Up to this point, I'd been on my own and hadn't seen a single vehicle. But I saw this trail of dust approaching me with what looked like quite a bit of speed going. So I was a little bit worried with this left-hand corner coming up that there may be a problem coming up, because I thought he was going really fast when he cut the corner. But he didn't, he was fine. I think he gave me a bit of a wave as he went past, and we went on our merry way. And just at the top of this, not the top, a little bit further on, I really wanted to enjoy the scenery, so I felt it would be useful to just stop and take a breather and have a look at the scene. So a quick stop on this ridge gave me a chance to look back on the valley below and the road that I travelled on coming up here. So all I needed to do was settle into my accommodation here. I checked in, I was able to park my bike around the back, and it's pretty budget accommodation. It was a single tent here, kind of a permanent structure, wooden A-frame tent with 2 single beds, which I didn't know at the time, but were going to cause me a restless night. But I unloaded my luggage, and it was still about 4 o'clock, so there was a bit of time for me to head off and do what I really wanted to do, and that was go and see the Stadshaal Caves, pretty local phenomenon, which I've wanted to see for ages. Once you've navigated the padlock at the gate into this, I don't know if you'd call it a reserve, but this natural scenic spot, there's a nice little trail that leads through actually really beautiful bushveld, sandy little trail, which I needed to be careful on. My bike shook its head a little bit and wasn't really happy in sand, although generally it handled it okay, and I was pretty surprised by the fact that I was able to make it. So, but look at the clouds, look at the rocks on the horizon. It just is a pretty dramatic view as you drive up here to this spectacle waiting you here. It's almost like a crowd waiting for you, and it kind of builds up to the beautiful scene that unfolds in front of you. Only person here. So I'm here at the Stadssaal Caves, which is an area which I wanted to visit for ages because I think it's so spectacularly scenic. So I'm going to walk through a bit, take some photographs, see what we can see. It's incredible. What a place this is. Just so silent here, it's incredible. And there's so much bird life. Yowza. This is like some fantasy, some fairy tale fantasy. Oh, my word. I can't tell you what it feels like here. It feels like there's an ancient, timeless essence of Africa here. And the people who lived here were just so lucky or skilled. What a place to live. It's unbelievably beautiful. Magical. I can see how this place would have held a religious fascination for the Bushmen. When you walk up here, you just see these rocks arranged like this, standing on the horizon. And then you walk inside and you see this. How can you not think of the spirits? I'm fascinated by this place. So having finished my visit, it was time to head back to the campsite and maybe some supper. I didn't want to be caught on this road in the dark, so it was time to go and enjoy the evening shadows. Good morning. It's the next morning after what for me was a long day's riding. I think it was about 6 hours in the saddle, and it was supposed to be a good night's rest, but it wasn't. I couldn't sleep last night. I think it was a combination of a single bed, which I haven't slept in for ages, and not being able to be warm enough. But anyway, nice accommodation. I thought I'd just show you what it looks like up here in the middle of the Cedarberg. It's 7 a.m. in the morning now. Good old machine, nice and dusty and like it should be, looking good. I must say I'm impressed with these tires. I went through some sand last night, and which was new for me, and it shook its head a little bit, but not bad. Anyway, so beautiful, as I say, in this area. It's all sorts of accommodation. I stayed in that sort of tent A-frame thing. There's quite a lot of different accommodation around here, and it's set in a valley in the Cedarberg. You can hear the birds. Woke up this morning with birds flying around my head, literally. Just amazing. Beautiful sounds, beautiful. It's a beautiful place. I'm sure you can hear them. Sun coming up, kissing the hills over there, and over there is the hill that you ride down to get here, which is pretty lovely. So, on for breakfast, and then the next part of the trip. Just another view of the parking in my accommodation. Apparently you're allowed to park your bikes even in front of your tent. They don't mind bikes on the lawn. They do mind cars, but not bikes. But listen to the birds. Very pretty. So, having had a fill of a good old bacon and eggs breakfast, you know, the traveller's delight, it was time to leave. I had actually taken a bit longer than I thought I might. Had a good long chat with the host, who was a very hospitable guy, but it sort of ate into my travelling time, but that's not the end of the world. As you can see, the sun had come up, and it was coming up 30 degrees already, I think. So I didn't know it at the time. Excuse me. But it was going to make for an uncomfortable day's traveling. You know, climbing on and off the bike in the heat with all my protective gear on kind of takes it out of you, and it makes you unnecessarily tired and uncomfortable. But anyway, it was time to say farewell to my overnight stop, and I hope to be back. I enjoyed my time here despite the fact that I couldn't sleep. I really struggled to adapt to a single bed. But other than that, you know, everything else was great. It truly is an oasis in the middle of nowhere. And it's, as you can see, time to hit the open road. It was a beautiful, bright, clear morning. Lovely for riding. The road was clear and open. I don't remember encountering any traffic at all. I kind of followed the valley floor. As you can see, it's a slight valley here. It's a shame about the telegraph poles, because other than that, it felt really isolated. Kind of the outdoor feel about it. So the road wandered along, quite good condition, and until I came to these ridges, and I just wondered how these ridges kind of open up into an opening. They're not apparent until you get there, and all of a sudden the road opens up to you. I'm not sure what these buildings are, and initially I was a little concerned that that trail ahead of me was where I was going to have to go. But as I got closer, it was with a bit of relief that I realized the road turned off to the left. And the second road off here to the right is the road to Wuppertal, quite an infamous road, and apparently quite tricky. I think many an adventure biker has come to grief there, and a lot of sweat has been shed on that road. Anyway, I came past this pretty little cottage here. Again, another little valley opening up with a little gravesite, on the side. And across a little stream, which we'll come to in a moment here. Amazingly for South Africa, it has water in it. Actually, there was an abundance of water in the area, which I noted, and it was really nice to see. I've got to wonder what people do when they live in these cottages. I mean, it's just, there are no facilities out here. You really are on your own. Yeah. What I did like was the little daisies and flowers growing on the side of the road. I thought that was really pretty. All a very bucolic scene, and spectacular, always with the mountains in the background. Very spectacular mountains. I really enjoy the general red tone of everything. Everything it's got that what to me seems the typical African red tone of the iron ore in the rocks. In retrospect now, when I look back on it, I should have taken one of these little turns off to the left here. This countryside on the left here. There's a little road there, and I think there are a few more along on the way. These rock formations on the left are just amazing, and to me they typify what the Cedarberg is. You know, I haven't spent much time here, but to me the Cedarberg is epitomized by ornate rock formations. And I should have stopped a bit, although for me at the time I wasn't sure how much time I needed. It turns out though that I had plenty on hand. I think this section of the trip until I get to the main road, to the national road, is only about 2 hours. So I had more time on my hands than I thought I had. And could have stopped and should have stopped, for sure. Hindsight and all that. At this point, the gravel road comes to an end and it turns into a tar road. Now, one can only think that that's because extra adhesion is required. And when you get over the top here, you'll see that that is indeed the case, and why it is the case. At this point, you can't really see, but it's a spectacular drop down the other side. And I was a little bit surprised that there was nowhere to park and stop and take photographs, which I really wanted to do. So I ended up sort of stopping a little bit way down. But there's a long, steep hall down here, which certainly warrants the implementation of a tarred surface, that's for sure. But boy, what a view. Mountains and a road stretching off into the distance, and of course those little wisps of cloud giving it some beautiful atmosphere. This, I think, was maybe, although it wasn't a gravel road, it was maybe the most spectacular view of the trip for me. So this is at the southern border of the Cedarberg Wilderness area. This is now Nieuwoud's Pass, and it's the last bit of the plateau. From here on, at this highest point, the road slowly winds its way down a still somewhat spectacular mountain pass, down off the plateau, down into the lower reaches down at the bottom, where it ultimately meets up with the Olifants River, which then marks the end of the gravel part, at least, of the trip. Still pretty spectacular, with, as you can still see, wild birds and wildlife still around, and of course those omnipresent clouds. A really beautiful way to end the ride. Turn left to Citrusdal and right to Clanwilliam. Ahead, the Olifants River Bridge. And this intersection will be familiar to many of people who have come into the Cedarberg Wilderness. It represents the start, pretty much, of the dust journey, the gravel journey, and the start of the climb up Nieuwoud Pass. The river looks in rude health. It's nice to see it flowing. Not too strongly, but certainly with adequate water flow. There have been times where in rainy season this river flows right over this bridge, and of course there, as you can see by the sandbank, there's considerable runoff, and the bridge often gets stranded with no water flowing underneath it. The gravel road starts again, and this represents the last bit of gravel on the road back to Cape Town before joining up with the N7, which has been newly refurbished and newly surfaced, and it's a big, wide, smooth road, passing as it does the Olifants River on the left here, with of course those beautiful clouds to keep you company on the journey.